among younger priests is people will say, well, who do you have coming to speak? And how did that work for you? And how did this work? In the same way, we have to say, okay, what are you aiming for? What are you trying to do in your parish? What are you trying to do, hopefully, in your diocese? But if you're going to wait for bishops to have a diocesan plan, God bless you and good luck to you. And call me when it happens, okay? All right? And so instead, are we just going to sit here in frustration? Or do we say, well, if it's not done there, then it must be done here. The real life of the church throughout the entire world is lived in parishes. It is. We know that. The real life of the church is lived in parishes, which is us. Eh? To paraphrase what Pogo said back in 1944, it is us. And so I think we have to be able to look at that critically and say, integration means, will it work? Will it work? I realize that this can lead to defeatism. And defeatism can be a real problem. Because people say, well, I tried it, it didn't work. Tried it, it didn't work. I say, well, you always have to debrief. You know, however you debrief, you got to debrief and say, what was done, what was not done, what worked, what didn't work, and why. Could it work again? Could it work in a different place? That's why congresses, conventions, etc. are essential for people to be able to say, okay, I can't have all the ideas, so I'm going to tap in to what's happening here, here, and here and say, what do you do that works? This is why this interaction with people who are in our peer groups is incredibly important. I see it now as a pastor and as a guy who's ordained 26 years. I need to interact with my peer groups. It's hard to get my peer group to interact on that kind of a level because often other pastors will say, you can't really be interested in what we're doing. We're not doing that much. But what are you doing? What I also want to say to them sometimes is, what aren't you doing and why? You know, and which is also significant. When we bring this into account, people can be able to say, well, you know, we're not doing enough, or we're not doing very much, we're just trying this, this, and this. That's all right. It is also the small things that build up a culture. Because often those small things have an incredible accumulative effect. Think of this when you think of how people can have family ministries within a parish. Family ministries take a long time to pay off. A long, long time. When I say to families, pray for the families into which your children are going to marry, they look at me as if I'm demented. I say, well, who do you want your child to marry? Do you want them to marry somebody who's stable and sensible from a good and faithful and stable family? And they think, yeah. I said, pray for that family now. You don't know them by name, but pray for them now. To recognize that in the economy of salvation, what we do makes good sense. Because otherwise, we can, I think, become people that just have tiny slivers of activity to say, well, you know, I can't do this, and therefore I won't do anything. Complexity should not lead to defeatism. Complexity should make us instead say, all right, we live in a complex world, but I don't have to do everything. And we say that. There was an old phrase, I can't do everything, but because I can't do everything, it doesn't mean that I won't do something. And because I can do something, I won't refuse to do the little that I can do. Complexity just says, all right, I can be able to concentrate on a few things, or I can find people to work at concentrating on other things. I'm going to bring that up in the homily. But we need to look at that and to say that often complexity, people go, oh, it's too much for me. And they go back in and they pull that cover over their heads. There's no way that I can stop abortion. You know, the constant creeping advance of euthanasia means that for me, it's just too much for me to be able to do. Instead, however, we can be able to look at issues. We can look at issues to be able to look at how those issues are going to be effected in our time and in our place. If we do this, it means that we need to look critically at how it is that isolation can be overcome. One of the reasons that we have a Priests for Life organization is so that that isolation specifically can be addressed. Specifically can be addressed. I don't say you can handle every problem of celibacy. I don't say you can handle the problems of too much work and not enough interaction, etc. But it does mean that we can look honestly at how it is this person and that person and that person can be linked together so that we can be able to be more effective. In that regard, we need to recognize ourselves as leaders. A lot of people have a hard time seeing themselves as leaders. They really do. Because, let's be frank, guys, for years and years and years you're in the seminary, and yeah, you can be an MC or a sacristan or the head of the student council, whatever, but leadership, what are you told? Wait, wait, wait. You know, that's all. And you get out to internship. Who just came back from internship? So how much of a leader were you in internship? You know, so yeah. Okay, I don't agree with that. I really don't agree with that. And it's going to take a lot to try to change that kind of a model. However, immediately, once you're ordained, you're seen as a leader. Absolutely immediately, you're seen as a leader. And it can be an awful shock to people. Isn't that true, guys? The guys who've been ordained. It's an awful shock to people to say, well, all of a sudden, you know, people who are literally 40 years older than you look at you as leaders. And, you know, at meetings, say what you want. You can have your pastoral council, and then people say, and okay, there's a discussion. What do you think, Father? In other words, what are we really going to do? Often people will shy away from that. They'll shy away from it because they are ignorant or inexperienced, etc. We cannot shy away from it with life issues. And we cannot shy away from it if you look critically at the job of building a culture. Building a culture is that wide-ranging that it means that we must take every single initiative to be able to do it. To be able to say, how is this action going to build up a culture of life? How will this action really contribute to the broader base of what I want to see being achieved? How many people, excuse the language, will bitch and complain about the state of family life and how few will do anything about it? So I don't know what to do. I'll give you an example. I'm not sure what to do in my own parish, but I do know that family life and marriage is in desperate shape. There's something new, eh? But it is. It's in desperate shape. I'm not sure what to do. I've been canvassing people. I've been talking to this person and that person about different programs and individuals, etc. But I've been saying to people, we're in bad shape here. We've got to be better. What's your idea? What's your idea? What's your idea? So the conversation is starting. People are saying, gee, maybe we can do something, or maybe we should do something. It's not as if I have to have all the answers, and I don't intend to. But I do believe that we have to engender the discussion and keep the discussion going and move the discussion along and take action at various times, because in a previous document from Seminarians Consortio, the Holy Father wrote very well, the future lies by way of the family. The future of society lies by way of the family. And so that's very much part of this culture of life. The future lies by way of young people. How are we going to engender in them a proper concept and ability to live out their sexuality? And I can go on and on. In effect, then, we need to look and say how it is that we can see, judge, and act. To see, judge, and act, and not be defeated by something going wrong the first time, or not having enough people. Years and years ago, there was a Hagar the Horrible cartoon. It's a great cartoon. It's a great cartoon, Hagar the Horrible. And Lucky Eddie is in front of a castle wall, and he says, but it's so big, and we're so small, and there's so few of us. And Hagar says, there's only 3. And he says, yes, but with one more person, we can surround the place. And it's true. Do we really want to give up and to have that idea of defeatism that's echoed by W.B. Yeats in that famous poem about the second coming? You know, turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer, things fall apart. The center cannot hold, mere anarchy is loosed upon the world, and everywhere the blood-dimmed tide is loosed that drowns the ceremonies of innocence. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are filled with passionate intensity. Surely, and then it goes on from there, some second coming is at hand. Don't you feel that at times, you know? The best lack all conviction, and the worst are filled with passionate intensity. I get the information from CFAM. It's a pro-life and pro-family group at the United Nations, and boy, that's how I feel. Like, look at the intensity of evil.